Hi, my name is Raymond Staple with DragonBlogger.com, and I'm here to present a video doorbell review that I think you're going to like. Now, keep in mind that this was done over several different days of filming, so my shirt is going to change a couple of times. This was done for my parents at their home, and throughout this video you're going to hear both myself, my father, and perhaps a few others that will pop their head in from time to time. I want you to know that all opinions and information that I present in this video is mine and mine alone, and does not reflect upon DragonBlogger.com, nor does it reflect on the manufacturer of this product. Having said that, I hope you enjoy the video and look forward to hearing your comments later on. Important thing, and again, I apologize for it being so dark. I don't have the ability to put a light right here, even if I wanted to have a light on. You got to look at where your power is, okay? That is where the power is, and the power has to go to the inside monitor. It doesn't go to the outside doorbell, it goes to the inside monitor. In this particular room that we're looking at, there's no power behind the shelf here, no power on this other side. There's no power on this wall in any spot. The only power in this entire room here is way over here. And that would kind of be an inconvenient spot to answer the doorbell. The cord for the power supply is fairly long, but it's not long enough to go all the way through and back into the next room. Now, if we do this correctly, we can actually go from here through this hole and then go up and over the wall. Once we've gone over the wall, we can come down and go right down there onto the floor and go under the door, because in this particular case there's a ½ gap under the door. So we're left with only cutting one hole through the house and 4 screw holes to hold the exterior unit into place. And then, of course, we drill the base for the monitor on the inside wall, and then we're set. When you go through and you think about doing this for your own home, spend some time thinking about where you're going to put everything. Yes, there's a very good long cable. Will it stretch the length that I'm saying it's going to stretch? I believe that it will. But guess what? I haven't tested that yet. So that's the next thing I've got to think about. I'll be back with that information in a moment. Here, we've gone ahead and mapped out roughly the area that we're going to put this in. We've got the square box showing, and we've got a spot for each of the screw holes that we're going to put in. And it's a little harder to see, but right here are the 2 spots that we're going to consider for putting our cable run through. Our cable, well, let me show you the other end. Cable actually doesn't have a plug on it. I misread that when I was looking at it when it was all wrapped up. And it is quite a bit of cable. This is at least 10 to 15 feet of cable here. Okay, so we're going to have a hole in the center for the cable to be big enough to come out. And each of the holes that we're going to put into the masonry here are going to be approximately 1/4 inch in size. We're hoping that this will fit snugly inside there. Then when we screw the box into place, everything will be set. So that's what we're going to be working on. And I'm going to let my dad go ahead and do his part, and then we're going to go from there. Okay? Not a problem. I can change my position anytime. Now, this is something you're not going to want to do unless you're ready to commit to it. Now, you notice he's kind of starting and stopping. There's good reasons for that for anybody who's not familiar with using a drill. When you're cutting through masonry, if you were to go straight at it, you could crack your masonry, plus you off track, because it won't stay in place when you're going across a hard surface like this. And unlike wood, you don't get a little pilot hole knocked into it with an awl. You actually have to do this yourself or face cracking your entire wall. That sounded like he went right through the masonry. Possibly there's the wood surface on the other side. That's what we're hoping for. And usually with this type of wall, that's what they do. They stucco over wood. Now these holes don't have to go all the way through. They just have to go to a depth sufficient enough to put that inside the hole. If you go all the way through, you're going to have some problems. And it looks like we're sufficient to do what we need to do. Now we got the problem of getting this, and we've got to go all the way through. We know we really don't need that large of a hole in order to be able to put the cable, but we're doing it just in case we need a little extra wiggle room. What he's going to do is he's going to put a series of smaller holes around because he doesn't have a drill bit that large, and then he's going to tap out the entire hole once he's got it done. And in addition to all this, we have lawn mowing going in the background as well. Now it looks like it's tapping itself out for us. And since this is going to be hidden underneath the plastic, it really doesn't have to be too pretty unless you just really want to make it pretty. And drilling through stucco is a lot like drilling through concrete, because in a way it's a form of cement.
I'm gonna get a hammer and a straight screwdriver to knock into it.
Okay, we've gone pretty deep into that hole, and there it goes into focus. We're going to get a hammer and a screwdriver and work on knocking the rest of that out before we continue doing any more drilling. We'll be back in a moment. I was recording because it turned off for some reason. Again, he's undoing the light switches on the inside just to be careful, making sure that nothing is going to electrocute him. You don't want to do this with the electricity on because that could be very disastrous for you if you get shocked. If you're in doubt about what you're doing, always turn off the power at the main breaker box inside your house. If you know which rooms are which, great. If you don't, shut the entire electrical system off before you work on electrical circuits or wiring. Just in case that the video was not recording before, because I do believe that I might have shut it off myself because of where my hands were at. We cut 4 holes, 1 for each of the screws. We cut a center hole. This is through stucco, so we cut multiple holes around. There was a wire in the center. Clipped those wires out of place using a small wire cutter, and then flushed out the hole with a needle nose plier to remove the wires and remove the remaining stucco that was in the hole and that was in our way.
Wire goes up.
Okay. And the reason he's doing the wiring on the inside here and checking it out is to see which direction and where the wires happen to go up, so that he can be careful when we drill the hole through the wall that he doesn't drill directly into a live wire. It will hurt, but not bad. You probably won't have to go to the hospital unless you're very susceptible to the electrical currents. Everybody's bodies are different. And certainly as we get older, our bodies break down our resistance to the electrical currents, and it can smart for a lot longer than we like. Alright, I'm going to pause the video for now while we're doing the remainder of this, and we'll pick up again in just a few moments. Now, it is hard to see, and I apologize, I don't have any additional lighting in this room. But the wires are pretty thick, and they are covered on both of these. What my dad's going to do now is measure from here to where this wire is, assuming that it's going to go in a straight line right up, then we should have a narrow window of where to drill in between. He also wanted me to remind you that, of course, he's moving a little slow because he is 82 years old. He does have some health problems. He is also a lot more qualified to cut these holes into his house than I am, since he's done the electrical work in this house for years. But do be careful. I'd rather you take your time doing this than to rush through it and make a mistake. Prior to showing you what we were doing on video, we ran the wires by hand from this location up and over all the way around to see if there was going to be enough room or length of wire in order to do it. We did it 2 and then 3 times. It's better to check 3 times before cutting a hole and committing yourself to a job, because if we didn't already have a good idea of where we were going and what we were doing, I wouldn't have had them cut the very first hole in the first place. Because once you cut a hole, you don't get to come back from it. Now, it's a good possibility that we're going to come across the wire, but it's also a very good possibility that we'll be able to kind of knock it off to the side. When he starts doing this job, he's going to take short bursts through the wood, just like he did through the masonry, because he does not want to cut through just quickly and then cut directly into a wire. Alright, we'll get back to that in just a moment.
I'm going to drill a pilot hole in here first, a real small hole. I've measured from here to here, and this looks like it's going to be between my wires that are going up here and up to the porch light.
Okay.
So, but I want to get a real small hole to start with, so that I see how thick the wood is and things like that. And I don't want to go any further than I have to. Alright, that was alright. I'm going to get to a bigger bit, and then I'll go to a bigger bit. I don't want to get to a real big bit to start with.
The larger the bit that you have to work with, sometimes the harder it is to push it through because you're cutting through more wood, and that's when you can get more of an accident to happen.
Okay, here we go, get a bigger bit now.
So, it's a little bit of a slow job, and I'm showing you each of these steps, not because I just want to bore you with, oh wow, it took so long to get this done, but because this is something you got to think about. Now, could it have been easier if we'd gone ahead and just cut the hole out of the wall? Yeah, maybe. But it'd been a lot more work to do that than it is to take your time and make just a few small holes. Does mean, though, still, that we have to think about what we're doing. Could it have been better if we had planned it and put it over there, or just put it through the door? Yes, I actually considered the idea of putting it on the door, but then we'd have to have the problem with the cable. You know, we'd be moving back and forth, and it would kind of be in the way, plus the fact that we got a screen right here, which means that somebody's going to have to open up the screen first before they go and actually ring a doorbell. they're going to opt for this one before they would opt for that one, in other words. With this, they're going to see that. They're not actually going to push it because it's a heck of a lot bigger than that. And if my parents like this one better, they may just disable that one. Okay? Now, let's show them how big that particular drill bit is.
Half-inch.
That's a 1/2 inch size, which is more than enough for the size cable that we have. Plus, this one's going to take out a lot more wood, and having the pilot hole in there to guide it through is a very important thing. He's taking his time through it and doing the start and stop, partly because he's feeling for the wires with himself. He's also knows that if you just go in there really fast with it, you're gonna burn wood rather than cut wood. Okay.
Now,
He's also looking at does he have enough room to actually go all the way through the wall with his drill bit, and he just almost does. He's going to have to try to see if he can stretch it out. If not, we're going to have to measure to the center of this hole, go onto the inside, measure out to where the center would be, put the drill bit in place, and go the other direction. So this is not always a quick and simple job, but it is always rewarding because you did it yourself. Okay, what he did was he got an extension. Now this guy does everything you can possibly dream of doing to his home. He's got enough tools in here that Tim Taylor on the TV would be very, very jealous. So he opted to go with an extension to give him just enough room to be able to get through the hole there. No, it's not pretty, but after a while, he's going to do something and put something over that hole to be able to make it a little less rough looking. And we'll get back to that in just a moment. I started to run the wire through the hole, and the wire hit the other side of the wall and went down into the wall rather than through it. This was a little bit of a stiffer cord that didn't have any way of bending as much. It took me a few tries, but I've run that through the hole. And then I'm going to try to attach the wire to it. Perhaps I'll put some tape on it, and then once I've done that, I'll pull it through the hole. Just something that might happen and might come up that you'll have to know about, and we'll see how that works. Okay, if you remember back at the beginning, I mentioned measure multiple times, cut once. So far, we've only made one cut through the wall leading to the outside, and we've had a lot of conversation about future cuts, additional ones. We were considering taking over here, running the cable over the top of the door, around the wall, and then cut additional hole right here. The reason was that we have access to an electrical plug right down there. It would have made it very easy to have mounted it right here. But we're looking at a lot of extra work. Now I looked at doing it right here, but the distance between here and here is too narrow for the monitor to fit. So we got an idea that if we take something and place it so that it offsets the monitor by a little bit, then it would fit right through that space right there, and we can mount the monitor right to this block. We're still thinking about that, but this is why I say think about what you're going to do before you make too many holes, because you don't want to make too many holes in something. So for right now, we're debating and discussing what we should do and exactly where we really want to mount this monitor in the first place. So give me a few moments, we'll get back to you, and we'll show you our final product in just a few minutes. And we've changed our mind a bit. We're going to use that piece of wood and mount it into the wall right in there where we had the original hole drilled in. And this way, We don't have to cut into the door frames at all, nor will we have to worry about additional wires being strung all over the place. We will have to cut some of the wire that we have, but that's far easier to do in the end than mounting all the way over there, drilling an additional hole into a wall that we really don't need to do. We will put those wires back into place. This will make a much more flush, easier, and a little bit more attractive job. I just wanted to update you on what we're working on. Okay, I've gotten the wire strung through the hole. Now we haven't attached and fastened anything on the other side. What I ended up having to do was tape the wire with Scotch tape, because as I was trying to feed it through the hole with the wires just running loose, they were going all over the place and it wasn't getting through there correctly. So as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you got to do things to make the wires fit properly. This makes it a little straighter, a little bit stiffer, made it easier for me to feed through here. It also helped when I looked as I was feeding it through, instead of trying to feed it through one side while looking through the other side to see if it was going to make it. Now all I got to do is decide what I want to do with all the extra wire once I've got the inside fastened. I tried earlier to put the wire inside there. It became so bulky that the unit that goes out here could not be closed into the box with all that bulky wire there. Now we could cut the wire, but we're talking about deciding, okay, how much do I cut? What am I going to do with the excess wire? All that kind of stuff. We only like about 6 inches, maybe a foot total that we would need as far as wiring. But because we're not 100% sure that this is going to end up being the permanent home of where this particular unit's going to be at, it might change sometime. We're going to leave the wire intact and we're going to find out what we can do to hide this wire or to feed this wire into another location and see if we can't save all this wire. All right, we'll do that in just a few moments. Things that the documentation does not show, and you're not really going to see it well in this video, is the coloring scheme for the unit for outside. I will include this graphic in my actual finished presentation on the written portion, but the wiring goes brown, black, blue, green, skip to yellow. So brown, black, blue, green, skip to yellow. If you don't put those wires in the right place, the inside unit and the outside unit will not communicate with each other properly. Now, there is a diagram on the back of the inside unit that if you're able to focus in really closely and you've got the eyesight to do it, you can figure out the color scheme. But unless you've got really good eyesight, and I don't, it is a little hard to read. I actually had to put on my reading glasses, get a magnifying glass out. That didn't work. I had to get on my camera and I had to zoom into it and take a picture of it and then magnify the picture in order to see the fine print. So I will include in my written review the actual order, as well as you having seen that picture right there, so that we can get this thing wired up properly. As you can see, we fastened the wire, as we said, through the wall. It's still movable, so it's not in there, real secure. And it is fastened to the wall very securely. This is where this is going to plug into the back of the monitor for the inside part, and then it's going to clip into place. Now when we come out here, we've got to decide what are we going to do with all of this wiring. Now if I just push, is it going to push on the inside wiring? And as we can see, it's, whoops, I guess if I turn the camera correctly, if I'm pushing, and right now I'm feeding the wire back towards the wall on the outside, we can see the inside's not moving. But I'm feeding quite a bit of wire in through that hole. What am I doing? I'm feeding it into the wall. So rather than cut this wire, which would severely hamper our insulation if we choose to move this, or if my parents move to a new house, or you move to a new house, and you're wanting to have this, instead of losing all that wire, well, we're just going to feed it into the wall and get it out of our way. So I'm going to work on that, and in just a moment I'll come back and we'll talk about the next step. Doing the wires a little bit, and all the wires seem to be trimmed. Well, it's a little hard to see, but they're trimmed well as far as being able to see the wire, except for the green one. So we're going to get a wire cutter or a wire snipper, stripper, whatever you want to call them, or if you're use them, you can use a pocket knife, but you could also cut the wire if you're not careful. Wire strippers would be the best, and we're going to expose just a little tiny bit more wire and less plastic there, so that we can make sure that we get inside the spot properly without anything not getting in far enough. Okay, I've attached the wires to the outdoor unit, and you see brown, black, blue, green, skip to yellow. There are some little buttons on the right hand side of this image. Those you have to press in while you feed the wire left and right there. Don't feed it up and down. Once you've gotten the wire into place, let go of the button and then tug on the wire to make sure it doesn't come loose. I went ahead and put a knot into the wire right there, so that as I'm putting everything together, it doesn't go into the wall, jerking on the wires here or anything else. And there's about maybe a foot and a half there to work with. That should easily fit inside that box right there. We're going to assemble this here in just a second, and we're going to go from there. So the outside unit is secured in place. We had 2 screws right here, short ones, that go in with an Allen wrench, okay? And that holds the outside unit in place. And if you look at the outside unit, you can see several things. One are these little things right here. Of course, the lens in the center, the speaker area, and the button. These are for nighttime, so that they will light up and be able to do like an infrared. You won't have full color usually at night. Maybe you will on this one. But it allows you to be able to see in a less than ideal light situation. And then, of course, the doorbell basically is the same as you would for a normal doorbell. You just press it, it rings, and then we should be able in a moment to be able to communicate back and forth with each other. That I have mounted this against the wall there. As soon as I did, because I have the power plugged in, the lights all came on the front, letting me know that the unit was working. I removed this plastic cover that's over the front of this that safeguards it during transportation. I did have to push the wire back into the wall a little bit, and I had to adjust how I pressed down on the clamps or the mounting bracket, because this end over here didn't want to exactly seat correctly, so I just had to maneuver it a little bit. Once I got it into place, now is the chance to test and see what happens. I'm going to have my father stand outside, and then I'm going to have him ring the doorbell once I close the door, and we're going to see if this operates the way it's supposed to. What he's done was ring the doorbell. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, he can hear me just fine out there. Of course, I can't see him because he's a little short and he's not standing directly in front of the camera. Now, it is, if you look here, it is a little dark. What I've noticed is it's not because of the quality of this product, because if you look in the back, you can see that things can be seen back there. Yes, the trees do appear to be blue right now, but that's a lot of the lighting that's here. And I can open up the door for him. If we look right in this area, okay, obviously, if I look at him, and I look at the doorbell, he's not lined up eye to eye with that eyepiece. So I'm going to have to get my dad a step stool just so he can use his own house. But that's okay. He doesn't mind. We have a lot of shade right here. And if anybody knows anything about cameras, you know, what's showing on the right-hand side of this picture is a lot easier to see than what's on the left-hand side of this picture that I'm looking at right now. So backlighting is important. We've already discussed that as a possibility. We're probably going to have to get a better light here, maybe like a floodlight or something like that, or place a light back over here so the light shines this direction instead of just having that little light bulb there and having the indirect light coming through. Now, as far as the video quality, that can be adjusted. There are a number of different adjustments that can be made. I can turn that off. I can turn it on. No. Push this button. There we go. And that allows me to just look outside and see what's going on outside. Turn it back off. I can talk to him because I pushed the button. Turn it back off. If I press and hold, well, I'm going to have to read the book. There is ways to adjust the volume. There are some adjustments here on the side which do control the contrast. See, if I do this and make sure I'm pointing in the right direction, I can brighten and dim. I really can't change the trees from green to blue like I'd like to. But again, that may be just lighting. It's not really important necessarily for us to see perfectly. And that was actually volume at the bottom. That may be. How's it sound out there?
I can hear it now, but not
Okay.
as loud as I could before.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna close the door and adjust the volume a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna turn the volume up if I get the right button. How's that?
Keep talking so I
Okay. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna go up a little bit more. All right. It's at the full.
That's plenty loud out here.
Okay. And I can hear you just fine in here too.
Okay, I don't know how the doorbell here is going to be.
Well, we're going to work on that in just a few moments. What I'm going to do is take just a short recess. But this was, first off, this was the installation. It does seem to work just fine. The installation went just well. What we're going to look at here in just a moment is how to make some adjustments. What I would encourage you to do would be to get your manual out, read the manual. There are a variety of different doorbell sounds that you can have and a variety of different volume levels that you can get. There are also buttons on here that we will not be using today, but there are accessories that can be added, such as a button that would keep the door locked until you push a button on the inside, which means if this monitor was in, let's say, my father's study or his computer room, and he says, oh, there's my son and daughter, they're visiting, he could push a button, unlock the door, and we could just walk right on in. When we close it, it'll lock right back up for us. So those are things that can be done. Those are sold separately, and you can certainly contact Amazon or 1ByOne or even talk to me, and I'll find out exactly how much those things cost and where you can get them from, and we'll feature those as well. All right, what we'll do now is sign off. Again, for Dragon Blocker, this is Raymond Stapleton, and I hope you have a great day and an even better tomorrow. Discussed actually using the monitor and looking both ways. Now we're going to talk about changing a few things, and I'm going to try to do this by going here and holding down the monitor button until it made that noise. Then I click there. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. Let me hang this up again. Okay. So let's hold it 4 seconds. And then hit there. And that was the one that my mother liked, so that's what we've set it up for. That changes the melody. So you're holding this button down for 4 seconds, then pressing this one, and then pressing that button until you find the melody that you like, and then finally pressing this button to lock it into place. Now let's say you want to change the volume of that. Hold this down. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, can't have that picture shown. There we go. Let's try it again. There we go. And again, lock it into place. So you don't want the screen to come on while you're doing this adjustment. So you're holding the monitor button down until it makes noise. Then you're pressing the talk button multiple times. And there's 4 different volume levels that you can work with. And then once you've gotten what you want, then you lock it into place again with that. It is not much harder than that to be able to make this work. Okay? Now, I'm going to show it to my parents, explain the features to them, and show them how it functions.